Don't they know smoking is so bad for their lungs? I guess I'll just have one.
That is cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the mental discomfort people feel when their beliefs, attitudes, or values do not match their actions. So when this happens, it creates a sense of tension because people naturally want their thoughts and behaviors to be consistent. To reduce this discomfort, people often change their thoughts or justify their action to make everything feel more consistent. So for example, when people smoke and they know that smoking is bad and it will cause cancer, they're in a state of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance was first studied by psychologist Leon Festinger during a participant observation of a cult that believed the earth would be destroyed by a flood. The research focused on how members reacted when the flood did not happen, especially those who were deeply committed and had given up their homes and jobs. Less committed members were more likely to admit that they were wrong and simply learn from experience. However, the most devoted members reacted differently. They reinterpreted the outcome to fit their beliefs. Instead of accepting they were mistaken, they claimed the flood did not happen because their faith had prevented disaster, which allowed them to hold on to their original beliefs. Leon Festinger didn't just observe this behavior, he wanted to test it in a controlled experiment. In 1959, he designed a study to see how people deal with this kind of conflict. Participants were asked to complete a very boring and repetitive task, such as turning pegs on a board for an extended period of time. The task was intentionally designed to be dull and uninteresting. After finishing the task, the participants were told to lie to the next person and say that the task was actually enjoyable and interesting. The participants were then divided into different groups. One was paid $1 to lie, another group was paid $20, and a control group was not asked to lie at all. After this, all participants were asked to rate how enjoyable they actually found the task. The results were surprising. The group that was paid only $1 rated the task as significantly more enjoyable than both the $20 and the control group. The $20 group's ratings were similar to the control group, meaning they still thought the task was boring. This happened because of cognitive dissonance. The $1 group experienced a conflict between their belief, which is the task is boring, and their action, which is telling someone that it was interesting. Since $1 was not a strong enough reason to justify lying, they changed their attitude and convinced themselves the task was actually enjoyable to reduce their discomfort. In contrast, the $20 group did not experience as much as dissonance because they had a clear external reason to change their beliefs. The experiment shows that when people do not have a strong external justification for their behavior, they're more likely to change their beliefs in order to feel consistent. So, this shows how cognitive dissonance works in controlled situations, but it also happens all the time in real life. A real-life example of cognitive dissonance can be seen in news reports about climate change. For example, a CNN report described fishermen in Louisiana who were directly experiencing environmental changes like rising sea levels. But even though they could see these changes, many still refused to believe climate change was the cause. This creates a conflict between what they observe and what they believe. Instead of changing their belief, they dismissed scientific explanations or set unrealistic conditions for accepting the evidence. This shows cognitive dissonance because they adjust how they interpret the situation to reduce discomfort. Another real-life example can be seen during the COVID-19 pandemic. Many people knew the virus could cause serious illness, especially for those at higher risk. However, some still choose to not get vaccinated. This creates a conflict between their knowledge and their behavior. To reduce this discomfort, some people downplayed the severity of virus or believed they were not personally at risk. This concept is not only found in real-life examples, but also in many fictional examples. So in Mean Girls, there's a popular group at the school called the Plastics. They're known for being very focused on appearance and popularity, and they often treat others in a really mean way. The main character, which is called Katie, knows that their behavior is wrong and doesn't agree with how they treat people. However, she still chooses to join their group because she wants to fit in and be accepted. This creates a conflict between her belief and her actions. Over time, she starts to change her belief and even becomes mean herself, just like the group. This shows cognitive dissonance because instead of staying true to her original beliefs, she changes how she thinks in order to match her behavior and reduce the discomfort. Another example can be seen in Breaking Bad. Our main character, Walter White, is a high school chemistry teacher who is diagnosed with cancer and becomes worried about how he will provide for his family. Because of this, he decides to start producing illegal drugs to earn money. Walter sees himself as a good person who's doing this to help his family. However, his actions such as breaking the law and harming others go against that belief. This creates a conflict between his belief and his behavior. To reduce this discomfort, Walter justifies his actions by telling himself that everything he does is necessary, and for a good reason. This shows cognitive dissonance because instead of accepting that his actions contradict his values, he changes how he thinks about them in order to feel more consistent. But cognitive dissonance isn't always this serious. It can also show up in many more ridiculous situations. So in the "this is fine" meme, a dog sits calmly in a room that's on fire and says everything is fine. This creates a conflict between reality, which is the room is clearly burning, and the dog's belief that everything is okay. Instead of reacting to the danger, the dog ignores the situation and continues acting calm. This shows cognitive dissonance because the dog avoids accepting the reality of the situation and maintains its belief in order to reduce discomfort. So, next time, when you catch yourself saying, "It's not that bad," just remember, your brain might not be telling the truth. It's just trying to make you feel better. That's cognitive dissonance. Understanding it matters because it helps us to recognize how people think, make decisions, and respond to uncomfortable truth. Thanks for watching.